We are live. We are live. What is up? What is up, everybody? Austin prechtelevate Performance, coming at you live today with an absolutely badass client of mine who I am really excited to have her joining today because we've been trying to get this going for a little bit now, but we finally made it happen. We finally, our schedules both align in a way to be able to do this episode. And her name is Kourtney, and I don't want to give away all like the awesome like goodies and exciting points and results and things like that you've had from your journey so far. So I'm not gonna have your introduction with that because I want to save it for later. But she's an amazing person, an amazing client, and she's like had an incredible journey thus far in so many ways. And so I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. So what's up, Kourtney? How's it going?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
I talk a lot.
So. You're good. I don't talk a lot, so it evens out.
Oh, perfect. It does. Yeah, that's awesome. That's true. So we're on the podcast right now, and we're just going to be kind of talking about your journey today and just kind of giving them a little bit of a backstory, kind of like on what you've been able to accomplish, like where you kind of started, and just kind of like have them get to know you and your journey and what you've been able to overcome and accomplish. And so as far as that goes, like let's kind of give them a little bit of a rundown of who you are, like where you're from, like how old you are, like just kind of like let's start there, I guess.
Okay, so that's pretty easy. We do icebreakers for work all the time.
Yeah.
I'm 37 as of 3 days ago.
There you go. Oh, nice.
3 days ago. I'm a mom of 4. I have 1 biological and 3 bonus kids. So, and I take care of my 82-year-old grandmother. I moved her in with me. So, and then I have my 9-to-5 job and a side job. So I'm a busybody.
Busy AF.
Yes.
That's
so
crazy.
I'm in the Spokane area. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. And so like, man, and like the time management factor of all that and still being it. I love that you opened with that and talking about that, because I feel like a lot of times people don't feel like a health and fitness journey could be for them because they have so much shit going on in their lives, just and being as busy as they are. But I mean, that's not the case for sure, because I mean you've been able to accomplish some pretty amazing things, which we'll talk about later. But before we kind of get to that, like when we were kind of like before you and I started working together, like struggle wise and things like that, like what were you struggling with in your fitness journey?
So I have multiple health disorders. Unfortunately, I kind of got slapped with one thing after another, and I got hit into like a pretty big depression for a while. I've had like 13 surgeries. 7 of them alone are just to get a shunt to work. So I have a permanent shunt installed. 3 of those were brain surgeries. So between just being beat up and the depression and all the different, I felt like I played, Russian roulette with medication. Like I just kind of, my activity level kind of hit sedentary, but my health, my body's kind of ballooned up, and some of it was, depression and stress eating. Some of it is medication related, health related. And then just struggling, joint pain, migraines on the daily. I missed so much work in like there for a long period of time. And so I just kind of spiraled. And then not knowing how to get myself back on track, and then seeing just all these different doctors and specialists that I have to see. They all have different opinions and do this, and things contradict. And I finally just kind of hit my breaking point of like, enough's enough. I got to do something. So
oh man, I feel like a lot of times like going through like hardship like that, or like that like oftentimes like there's something I like to say a lot of times is like we're stronger than our struggles. And oftentimes like if we can come out on the other side of that and we let it make us and like forge us into like a more tenacious individual rather than like break us, and maybe break us a couple of times along the way, but we get back up and stand back up and start working towards what we want to work towards. I feel like a lot of people who are maybe chronically ill, or who had like a lot of surgeries, or who had a lot of unlucky cards dealt to them in terms of like the medical side of things, like a lot of times they feel like they're I know a lot of people right now, even just that I have conversations with on a weekly basis that are in the same boat where you were, like at the beginning, where they're just like, I've just had so much like, terrible shit thrown my way in terms of like my health. Like, it can get to you and it can build up and it can feel like it kind of, you get into this like hole and it's like hard to like get out sometimes. And I mean, I've even been there too before, like whenever I I don't know if I really ever talked about it on here, but whenever I was in college, like I was like chronically ill for like a year straight and was like just could not work out. Like I felt like crap all the time. And like, it's hard to do. Like whenever you're just like living with like that pain, like all the time, it's just like, it can really mess with your mindset. And then in turn, and also your body too. And then in turn, it's like, yeah, it's just not a good time. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of times that's the hard thing about with certain coaches, like, or people who are younger and maybe have less life experience or have not experienced something like that. They lack empathy in a lot of ways, or there's like, why can't you just eat less, move more? And it's like, motherfucker, my brain's messed up right now. Like I need my mindset is screwed up. Like my body is like hurting right now. Like I don't feel like people like get that a lot of times. And so I feel like, yeah, it sucked that like you went through that, and yeah, it sucked that like I've gone through some shit too. But like I think that, I don't know, in a lot of ways is like a strength in certain circumstances, because like damn, like I made it through that shit, like I can make it through this, like and so I just want to say, like, I'm proud of you for not like giving up, and I'm proud of you for continuing to like through those ups and downs, like be proactive and hit. And sometimes it takes hitting that breaking point to be like, I need to do something about this. Like so for you, like, how is that kind of like negatively impacting you? You mentioned like your joints hurting and things like that.
Yeah. I have compressed joints. I've already had two surgeries to go in and alleviate they had to go in and like shave the bone and do an ablate. I believe it's called like an ablation, where they free up the nerve so that it moves.
Yeah.
I had like I have a pretty good scar down my elbow. And then in my lumbar, they had to go in and free up some nerves in my lumbar. But pain, like even just simple tasks of like cleaning the house, like 45 minutes in or so, and I'm down. Like my pride used to be my yard. Like I had like my own little mini rose garden at my old house. And, it got to the point where we've moved in this house now. Will be 5 years this year.
Yeah.
I'm still working on my yard because I can only do a little bit at a time, and then I'm down for like 2 days.
Yeah.
So, but this last go around, and kind of what helped push me to this point was about a year ago now, 2 years ago now. I went in for like the 6th round of physical therapy, and the doctors, after seeing a neurosurgeon and a physiatrist and some other doctors, I kind of went in expecting for another bout of physical therapy, and they're like, yeah, so we all kind of had a powwow and decided that our goal is no longer to try and fix you, just to give you the tools to self-maintain. And they were trying to push disability and opioids, and they told me stop going to the gym, stop doing your yard work, no more hiking, no more camping, no more anything. And I just kind of felt like at the time I was like 35, and I was like, you just told me to give up living. I'm not okay. And then I've had people ask me, like, how do you keep doing it? How do you keep going? How do you still smile knowing that you're in that much pain? And my kids, man, I don't want to see me give up. There's so much more to life than just rolling over and taking it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that mentality. And that's so true. And like, I feel like a lot of times, like, especially as parents, I mean, like a lot of like our inspiration or motivation sometimes is like derived from like, wanting to set the example for them and be there for them and in that capacity, and like, and show them what's, possible, and really just like set that example. And one thing that you mentioned too earlier that I think is like really like common, but I wish it wasn't, is like getting multiple like streams of advice from different doctors and different like, and that's the thing is like there's a lot of doctors out there, and they have like opinions or thoughts on what's the best way to try and lose weight, or what's the best way to try to get healthy, or whatever it may be. But like, and I'm gonna be honest, like I very, very few of my doctors I've ever gone to have known jack shit about like how to sustainably lose weight or how to sustainably strength train. Like they're just going off of like hearsay or what they learned about, like, to how depending on how long they've been a doctor for, like, 20, 30 years ago or whatever, like information that they had. And it's just like, it surprises me a lot. And like, not only like with like, because there are doctors out there that do know or have some relative knowledge, but like, it's not, at the end of the day, they're like their forte, I feel like a lot of times. And so, but like, they're just like, because I've worked with lots of people who've had dietitians in the past that have
I'm
had
currently seeing a dietitian and fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And like just having their, patients starving themselves, like, like, which is just like not sustainable, like at all. And they're like, well, why are people, why can't you, like, stay on this like diet that I've created for you, whatever. It's like, you have me like eating nothing on a daily basis, like out of nowhere. And it's just, it blows my mind how, I don't know, how some people are allowed to give advice like that when they don't even understand how it works, or like the mindset aspect of it. They're just looking at like the physical. Yeah.
I've learned so much more about the macros and everything since being part of this program than I did at all with my dietitian. My dietitian is focused on no more than 1,200 calories. She doesn't talk anything about protein or any of that, or how it all plays in. It's just don't eat over 1,200 calories and drink water. And I'm like, okay, well, what options do I have? Like, what are some resources? And she just goes, Google it.
Yeah.
And use medication.
Oh, it's so frustrating. And it's even more frustrating because it's like that's not like an uncommon thing or a rarity. Like time and time again, like even just within like the last year, like probably, I don't even know, I've heard the same story, like just from our clients in the community, like 10 or 12 of them at least, if not more. And then also the people that's just the people that we're working with, like, and just, it just, I don't know, it gives me a freaking headache whenever I think about how it's like, why, it's like, how did you get the job that you have? Like, if you're out here like making people like more likely to like rebound and yo-yo and like fall off, and like, it's like I feel like there needs to be like a sustainable like health and fitness like class or something that they take, that because they don't have that. Like they I don't know why, but it's way too common, unfortunately, where like if 1,200 calories is what a toddler freaking eats. It just drives me. Okay. We can talk about we can move forward. I could rant about this forever. This is about your journey, not how poorly equipped medical people are. But anyways, so for you though, right? So we've been working together since November. I looked it up. We've been working together since the end of November, maybe like early December of last year. So we're going on like 6-7 months now, like going pretty strong. And so within that time span, I'm trying to remember, like thinking back, like when we started, like did you have any like initial hesitation, like was like in terms of like starting up with working with me, or like like, because I feel like it wasn't too much for you. I feel like you're kind of ready.
Yeah, so I was kind of, like I said, I kind of hit my like, I got to do something. I'm not getting the help I need. I've been trying to lose weight for multiple years and just kind of yo-yoing and like whatnot. But then actually, I know a couple of your other clients have said the same thing, but I saw Jen's post and I know Jen, I trust Jen. I look up to Jen, like, and you see all these fad diets and you're like, okay, but I don't know you for jack. So like, how do I know you're being honest with me? Right. But I know Jen, and she's somebody I highly respect. And so I saw her progress and I was just like, this could be what I need, man. This could be what I need. And I was so torn because I knew like I needed this jump. Right. But at the same time, to take care of a household of 6 medical conditions, like cost is a serious thing for me. Like I literally budget paycheck to paycheck. So we budget groceries into our paychecks so that we go shopping every Friday. Like it's a bill. Yeah. So I called my mom up and I was like, Mom, I need you to talk me through this because I need to weigh the pros and cons of this and if it fits into where I'm at right now. And without hesitation, like an hour later, she called me back. She goes, I'll pay for it.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, I'll come and work for you. I don't care. Just, and we jumped on it. Like that was the only thing the only boundary I had at the time was trying to figure out if I could financially do it.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's freaking powerful. That's like what a like, I don't know, like turning point moment there, I feel like. And I really freaking glad that you did, because I mean, we've been able to make some insanely like insane progress, and honestly, not even like in the grand scheme of things, not even in like a very long period of time, like in it pretty which we can talk about, I guess. I want to get into the progress that you've seen, because it's pretty damn cool. And one other thing before we do that, though, too, you mentioned, looking up to Jen and everything. And she and I were actually talking about the podcast episode that you and I are going to do this week. And she was just like, I will say, elated at the thought of you being on a podcast, and was also the utmost respect that you were mentioning to her is definitely mutual.
That means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, like, just, like, as I was talking about, I'm so excited to get her on the podcast, because of how tenacious she is and everything that she's gone through, and still, being able to, go all in on this and work through that adversity, and still continue to show up and, make that progress, and, just, at the end of the day, like, doing the damn thing, and taking full advantage of the community and the resources. And like, I mean, you're in the community like a lot, like you're all over it, and on these lives and podcasts. And so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that you're on it. Like,
no, I just kind of made the mindset, like, I'm going all in. Like, I told my family, I said, I'm doing this. I need you guys to like support me 100%. So stop trying to buy me junk. Stop trying. Like, I know you want to give me my treats that I like, but don't. I need you to not. Like, I can have it once in a while, but I need this. This is so I can be here for you guys. Like, I need this.
That's what it freaking takes sometimes. I mean, you've got to have that, like, you've got to have like and I'm going all in on this mentality, but not an all in, all out mentality, right? Like that, finding that balance of giving yourself grace when you mess up, because things are going to happen sometimes. But having that, like, I am doing this. Like, there is nothing, like, having that mentality, I think, is super important. Like, coming into something like this, because it's a big change. Like, it's a big change, and you're not going to get it right, like, from the get go. But it's something that you have to be willing to get uncomfortable, and be willing to, try these new things and trust the process, even though the results aren't going to be immediate. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that. And I feel like, honestly, though, from the kind of the get go, and I mean, you started, like, I think when we were discussing, you potentially starting, it was kind of like, it's like, the holidays are coming up, but now's as good a time as ever. And you were like, you're totally right. Like, let's, like, I want to, like, now's as good time as ever to learn how to do this shit during the holidays. if I'm gonna do it, like, this is a great time to start. So, because I think we were talking, I was like, there's no, I was like, what's the point in waiting until New Year's? Like, why not get ahead of the game now? And you definitely did that. Like, I mean, it's been like pretty awesome to see. And so we've been working together since the end of November, early December now.
27th of November, I think, was my start date.
That is exactly. Yep, you're exactly right. Good, that's good memory. I looked at it this morning, because I was like, I want to remember exactly when. And so we've been working together since November 27th, to be exact. And so since then, results wise, what have we been able to, accomplish together? Like, whether that's, mindset or the physical side, health wise. I mean, like, there's been a lot of shifts and transitions.
So, I mean, the obvious one is the amount of weight I've lost. I'm down, I think, just from the program, I'm down about 45 pounds total. Since I started my whole thing, I'm down, I think, 59 pounds.
Let's pause for a second. Can you say a little bit louder? How much have you lost?
Total, I'm down 59, but from the program,
hell yeah, you are.
45
pounds down in the program, 59 in total. Like, that's great. Since the end of November, like, that is what is possible if you put in the freaking work. Like, that's like bananas. That's freaking amazing. And it's not been like horrible either. Like no. It's been sustainable, which is cool. It's no 1,200 calorie a day.
I had a couple weigh-ins where I gained back a couple, but it happens.
Exactly. And so sorry, I interrupted. I just wanted I wanted to make a point of that badassery that you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah. So, I mean, besides that, I feel like I've gotten some mental clarity. So, like, learning that it's okay to make time for myself,
Yeah.
and not, like the word no. I've been learning and practicing the word no and setting some
Yes.
boundaries. So that's huge. But with that, also reduced pain. Like, I
Yeah.
still hurt a lot, but I can go longer periods of time without the major flare ups. And like one of the things, like I was saying in one of the Winning Wednesdays I think it was last week or week before, um, I've subconsciously been sitting cross-legged.
Yeah.
And that's something I haven't been able to do in years,
Oh my
between
gosh.
bad hips, bad SI joint. And my husband was kind of like, I've noticed this, but like even in my work chair, I'm sitting cross-legged. I'm sitting cross-legged in my chair downstairs when we watch our family movies. And he's just like, did you notice? And I'm like, oh shit, no.
That's so cool. That is
um,
so cool.
so flexibility, man, flexibility.
Yeah.
The reduced pain is probably huge for me, but
Yeah.
also knowledge. Like I've gained a lot of knowledge about how macros play in, and
Yeah.
how protein plays in, and how the different parts, like you need the different parts. And like, contrary to belief, all carbs aren't bad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need some carbs, right?
Yeah.
They're not, so just a lot. And then I guess part of one of the biggest other, I keep saying biggest with everything, but I really feel like I've gained a lot.
Yeah.
But the community, like whenever I'm like trying to get somebody or like push somebody your direction, like one of the first things I talk about is the community,
Yeah.
because the support system is huge, and
Yeah.
having a support system like just makes a huge difference. And
Mm.
that's probably one of the things I'm most grateful for, I think, is the community I've gained with this.
Yeah. I love that. That is something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize like they could have, because they've never had something like that before. They've never
Mhm.
had a community that can be supportive. And I mean, you take full advantage of the community in the best way possible. And it's no freaking surprise that typically the people who get the best results in reference to their own personal goals are the ones that are in the community and enveloped and are taking advantage of it, and being supportive of others, and responding to things, and just like really integrating themselves into it.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't have that though in their day-to-day lives. A lot of people don't have an environment that's positive and wants to see them succeed, and is just like supportive if you're struggling with something. Or and also just to be able to talk about health and fitness stuff. Like there's not like a lot of places to be able to do that, especially as parents. Like I feel like to have that like realistic approach, I feel like it's just not like, oh, like, and I like to use this reference. It's like, oh, like you weren't like you were a human napkin today, or your kid like got you like was sick and you weren't able to get to the gym on time, but you still somehow pulled it through and got your workout done, and ate your protein and hit your goal there. Like even though all that shit was going on, damn, like like seeing somebody else do that who's in a similar position like am right now, like shit, if they're doing it, why the hell can't I do it? It's just
Yeah.
it kind of I don't know, it really kind of plants those seeds of like belief in yourself, I think, or like that confidence or that inspiration.
Mhm.
I think is really helpful. And like, yeah, no, I absolutely love that. I think that you know I don't know. It's crazy to see how far you've come, like in such a short period of time. Like I feel like the mindset and the knowledge and everything, like those things are or the knowledge side of things, like that's obviously awesome and important. And that's really a goal of ours, to be able to like help people understand those things. So that way, because like knowledge is power, and the more you know about something, the more
Mhm.
you can control it in a lot of these ways, or have that awareness. But then like the actual mindset shifts like that I've seen in you. And again, even just as like it's as recent as when we started at the end of November. It's like who you were then versus like the person that you're here now. Like you just seem so much more confident, and
Yeah.
and so much more and like happy and like upbeat, and like I feel like every other week like I'm getting like especially in your check-ins, like your wins are always just so like we even get, you even send me wins whenever we're not even doing the check-ins, and I'm like, damn, like she is in momentum, she is like feeling positive, like she is just like got all, it's like so much good shit going on like in your day-to-day since you took the reins and bet on yourself and started working towards these goals, like with the sustainable approach that we got,
Mhm.
like really try to get people to do. Like I don't know. I'm just really fucking proud of you. Like, just to put it bluntly, it's been really cool. And like, and I mean, we're still chipping away at things. Like it's really like 45 pounds down, 59 in total since you started, like, you know, on your own journey. But it's just like super cool. Like so for you, like what's next for you? Like, what do you, I know we're continuing to work towards, you know, as I was looking at your original form that you filled out whenever you started working with us. And I think one of your original goals was like 75. You want to get like 75 down and reduce your pain and things like that, which, I mean, we're well on our way to that. And like you're saying, like definitely, you know, seeing some pain reduction for sure. But like, you know, for you, like, where do you kind of see like these next steps for yourself in your journey? Like, what are you aiming for?
So like, well, I have my, you know, my overall like goal weight that I want to get to.
Yep.
But I want to be able to get back to where I can be more active more frequently.
Yeah.
You know, my youngest is about to be 16, and he's probably my most handful. He is very active. Like the rest of my family, you know, we're a nerd family. Like my husband, you know, works for GameStop, and we come home, we play family games and stuff together. Minus my youngest, he's not into that, but he's, you know, football. Like right now, he started football camp already, and school's still going. So, and you know, he's going to be quarterback, and he's very active. He wants dad to go play ball with him. He wants me to catch the football, and I'm like, I'm afraid it's gonna hit me in the face, right? Him and I are actually, he's really excited because we've been looking and talking about, he wants to work out with me.
Yeah.
So we have a total, I don't know, it's not like a total gym, but it's got like everything.
Yeah.
And it's in my Amazon Save for Later cart.
Yeah.
And we're going to strip the garage and make a workout spot in there together. And so I'm excited for that, you know, to be able to have that with him.
Yeah.
Especially right now, you know, mom's gross. I'm a teenager. I don't want anything to do with moms. So I want to take right. But I want to get out and go hiking more and stuff like I used to.
Yeah.
So like,
absolutely,
I'm outdoors through and through. Like I don't sit still well. I never have. Like I'm a busybody. Like I do it to myself almost, because like I don't do well with downtime.
Yeah, same. I completely get that, and that's so cool though. Like, you know, and that just proves like setting the example. Like you to have a teenager want to work out with his mom. Like that is one of those things that's just like, you know, that's happening right now because you decided to, like, you know, make this change in your own life, and that opened this door and this opportunity for them to be like, you know, to want to work out with you and to be able to do. That is just such a cool.
I do have to say, like, my family's been super supportive. Like, I need to make sure I say that because, like, you know, I was talking about the community and stuff, and which has been great, but I don't want to take away from the fact that my family has been extremely supportive. So,
and that's also, like, I think such an asset in a lot of ways. Like if you can get like your family on board and can get them in a supportive place and just understand like why, like, you know, this is, and have that healthy boundary of like, you know, this is why I need to do this for myself. This is why I need to get that self-care for myself. This is why, like, you know, I can't be, you know, please don't tempt me with as many treats or whatever, no kind of deal. And I think that, you know, if you can get, you know, whether it's a family member or a spouse or the whole family, like, you know, to see why this is important to you and to, you know, get them onto the supportive side of things, to understand that it just makes your journey all the more, you know, enjoyable and easier. And I love that you have that. Cause like, I think a lot of people may not have that, or they struggle with trying to like, to get that because, you know, and I don't think it's always like malicious or anything like that. But I mean, there are people out there who are in positions where they, you know, their family member or like spouse or whatever doesn't want them to change or doesn't want them to be healthy. But I think it's toxic and shitty. But you see it, you know, I've seen it plenty of times. And
it's their own insecurities. Like, I don't want you to get better because then you may not have room for me. Yeah,
which is just. That's not that's a big old red flag, but this is health and fitness, not dating advice, I guess. So, but anyways, but I think it's awesome though that you've got that, and I think that can just be such a helpful, like, just a helpful, I don't know, source of inspiration in a lot of ways. And yeah, I'm excited. You'll have to update me on how working out with your kid goes, because I think that's just like that's something that I'm looking forward to a lot personally, just because like I'm. You know, obviously, like I'm a dad and I've got a 5-year-old and he's not quite there yet. We still, even still, like, I mean, I've got a video of him when we went camping last summer, and he picks up this long piece of driftwood that we found at like on the beach, and he just starts doing squats, and he starts doing squats. He's like we're like, what are you doing? He's just like, I'm exercising, and he just keeps doing it over and over again, and it's like the funniest thing. And then he does it for like a minute and a half straight, and then we're like, oh, and then he stops, and we're like, oh, cool, you're done. And then he's like, no, and then he just like holds it in one hand and just starts doing it again, and it's just like the funniest thing ever. Like you just like setting those examples, like and seeing like the impact that it can have on them, like just because we decide to do something for ourselves and have our own self-care, and it's like it just kind of bleeds out into the people that we care about, like their lives, and they get to be impacted by our impact on ourselves. I don't know, I just think that's really cool, and that's why I love doing this. Like that's why I love working with parents too, especially because like I'm a parent, like I get it, and also like me helping you and you helping yourself too, like improving your quality of life, your health, your fitness, like they all get to benefit from that too. And I think that that's something a lot of like moms especially, but parents also just in general struggle with, is that like if I take care of myself and take time for myself, like that makes me a bad parent, or that makes me feel that I'm selfish if I do that. And it's just like,
I used to worry really bad that like if I didn't do everything that like they wanted me to do, or like if I said no, that like they were gonna get upset with me, and like everything was gonna unravel and my life would be over. So I had to start trusting that I had more value than that.
Yeah. I love that. And so for you, like you mentioned, learning how to set bound, like learning how to say no more, and kind of practicing that. And so I know a lot of people struggle with that, like especially chronic people pleasers. Yeah. And so for you, like what's helped you overcome that or work on that? Has it just been like practice, or has it just been like like checking in with yourself, like mindset wise, like testing it out and being like, oh, nothing exploded, everything's okay? Like for you, how did you
a little bit of all of the above? Just kind of deciding and making this decision that I am just as important, and that I'm not going to get where I need to be, where I want to be, if I don't set some boundaries. So and then picking and choosing realistic boundaries, not just and then consistency with them. Not saying no one time and then giving in the next time. So consistency's been key. But like I've kind of just set the expectation too that Sundays are my days. Like I take care of everybody all week long. I work my job. I do everybody's meals. I do all the grocery shopping, all the appointments, all like everything. I take care of everything. So Sunday is my day. Other than getting my grandma her food and water, because she's disabled and she can't take care of herself. Like it's my day. I don't do anything for anybody unless I want to, and that's where it comes in. So
I freaking love that. I love that you got that set up for yourself, because I mean it's important. Like I like having that time to recharge and fill your cup and to get your self-care in whatever form that may be, that that may be needed at that time. Like I think that is just so valuable, because I mean you got to fill your own cup. You got to like patch up the foundation, because it gets cracks in it throughout the week, and over time, if you don't patch it up, or you don't fill that cup, like shit's gonna break, it's gonna fall apart, and we're gonna be in a really unhealthy place. Maybe it's physically or mentally or emotionally or all the above. And I just think that like people need to realize, and it's that whole like tale of the wolf mother. It's like you gotta take care of yourself so you can like take care of other, especially the people that you love. Like you got to put on your own oxygen mask first, and like by doing that, shit ain't selfish. It's if anything, it's one of the most selfless things that you can do, because you see the bigger picture, and you're able to like resist the temptation in the short term to like default on that and cross that line in the sand that you drew already. Yeah, it is, and it's hard to break out of, but like it just takes practice, and I just think it takes time, and just being like kind to yourself, and reminding yourself why you're doing it in the first place. But also, if you do, falter, that it's like, hey, okay, just because I messed up once does not mean that this is, it's all ruined or whatever. And getting away from that all in, all out mentality, I think is really helpful.
Realistic expectations. So, and my two adult kids, they've jumped in and started helping more too. So both my adult children and my husband now have taken a day of the week, and that's their day for cooking and cleaning. So that takes some of that off my plate. Cause like it was getting to the point where I was just waking up angry. I was just waking up angry and
Yeah.
just shut down because I just knew that it was gonna be another chaotic day. And like
Yeah.
I was just so burnt out. I kind of hit rock bottom, and my husband was just like, "Yeah, we got to do something different. This
Yeah.
isn't easy." So I think that kind of helped with getting them on board that I needed to do this for myself. So and then like now that my kids are seeing the shift just in me mentally and my my aura, however you want to call it,
Yeah.
like I'm not just snappy and short tempered all the time. And
Yeah.
like even when they're doing their dinner days, like they're both looking up recipes for things that are healthier and so that I can eat it too. And dinner now has kind of become like the one meal that all of us eat together. So like everybody's eating healthier now at dinner time. Like so
that's such a huge impact. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of become our new routine. So
Yeah. I love that. And I think that finding that balance too, I mean, sometimes like I've been there, like I've burnt out like multiple times. And I think sometimes, I mean, unfortunately it does happen. And I like to say that, learn from my mistakes, like, and I don't do what I do, but like, sometimes it's hard. Like sometimes you don't know how, it's that whole, like, sometimes you got to fly a little too close to the sun and get burnt before you can, have your breakdown, before you can build yourself back up, kind of thing. And I think, I think that that's what that was, in a lot of ways with what happened. And like, now you've got this, like, you're proactive about it, and you were proactive in a sense of like, speaking your needs and things like that. I feel like a lot of like parents and again, especially moms, like struggle with like being honest or speaking their needs, because like, again, kind of like we talked about, that fear of like, I don't want things to be chaotic, or I don't want my family to resent me, or I don't want like this. But then all it does is it creates resentment within our own selves. Like whenever we don't end up doing that, and I think that
self-sabotage.
Yeah, self-sabotage. And I think like a key takeaway from what you said is just like open communication. I think just being open and honest about like your needs, and also like having it be a two-way street, I think just is like, that's just a recipe for like not only like a sustainable, healthy fitness and nutrition journey, but like, and weight loss journey, but also just like a healthy, like, relationship with like people that you care about. I think that's just kind of like a pillar of that, or kind of like a universal principle that can kind of go across the board with all of that. So I love that. And because you're kicking ass and taking names, your family is also benefiting from you kicking ass and taking names too. So cool. So for you, and for anyone that's, listening to this right now, or who's watching this right now, that's, thinking about like, starting their own journey, who might be in a similar position that you were in the past, whether that's, being super busy with family and jobs and everything like that, or maybe being in pain, or being, struggling with like, pain, or chronically just kind of, illness and things like that, and kind of, hitting that rock bottom. Like what would you say to them, or what do you wish you could have like, told the past you, like just starting off, like what are some like big takeaways, or just like a solid like piece of advice that you would give them or yourself?
You're worth it.
Yeah.
Do it. You're worth it.
Ooh, yeah.
So
I love that.
It's short and sweet, and just really like, no one's gonna do it for you.
Yeah, that's
You're
true.
Take it. Do
it. You got to, like, literally nobody's going to do it for you. Like nobody's going to, like, you are the only one who can like write that next chapter for yourself, because like whether you like it or not, like you're the one holding the pen, and you can either choose to not write anything, and then things are going to stay the fucking same, or you can like write a different story and do that for yourself. And I love that you say that just short and sweet, like you're worth it, because like so many people feel like they're not, and I hate that. I understand why they might be in that position, but like if somebody could just like some of the conversations I have on a daily basis, I'm just like, I wish I could reach to my phone, just like shake them and be like, you motherfucker, like you are worthy of this, like you like you can do this, like you deserve like self-care. It's not like an extra thing that you should like get at the end of the day. Like it's like something that everybody should have access to, and should be able to do, and should in some capacity have for themselves. So I love that you said that. Like they are worth it. You were absolutely worth it, and clearly like it's paid off, and you've definitely taken full advantage of being in the program and us working together. And like 45 pounds down in like, 6 months is no, like that shit does not happen by accident. Like it does not, like it comes from, consistently showing up for yourself and doing the work and being open to learning and being receptive to feedback. And like, I mean, honestly, I feel like every check-in that we do, like, whether there's some tough love or there's not tough love or just whatever, it's just like you take the feedback and you implement it. And I feel like that's a big reason why you've been so successful, is like, yes, there's all these other things, but just like, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual and like, you wanted it, and you made that very, very loud and clear that's been the case. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on today, and for trusting me, for being a part, like being an incredible member of the community, and supportive, and and just like showing up and just being such a like great example of what can be possible if you start to believe that you're worth it. So yeah. I appreciate that. So any last words before we end this one?
No, I mean, anybody who says they don't have time is full of crap.
Yeah. Yes, tell them yes, absolutely. Yeah. And remind them, how many kids do you have?
I have 4 kids plus my elderly grandma that I take care of, and then on the weekends my sister's here with her daughter. So like, I have a house full all the time.
Yep. And you're working 9 to 5. You've also got a side job,
secondary job. I do all the appointments, everything. So no time. There'll be times when it's family movie time, and I'll be down there behind everybody with my weights, doing my work or watching a movie. There's no excuse.
That's a damn good. Be adaptive. Don't settle for just like face value what you're being like. Get creative. Be adaptive. And too many people, and get better with your fucking time management too. Like that's like honestly, like I love that you said that. Give them a little bit of a tough love at the end there. That's good. So
I learned that from you.
When you said that, I wanted to say something else. I had to rein in my my sailor mouth there for a minute. Believe it or not, but cool, awesome, Kourtney. Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate you. You are an absolute badass, and here's to the rest of your journey, because we're not done yet. We're still chugging along. We're doing the damn thing. So appreciate you. And on that note, guys, I'll talk to y'all. We'll talk to y'all in the next episode. Let's go. Bye.